The IEEE Sustainable Smart Lighting Conference, it used to be called the Light Sources Conference, and now in this edition 2024 it came to Eindhoven, it came to the City of Light. Stuart Mucklejohn, you are with this conference already for a long time. You have seen the revolutions in lighting and you're still here. So you see a lot of progress in this field?
Well, that's right. The series started off strictly limited to light sources. As things evolved, it became clear that we needed to spread our area of perception and talk more about lighting in general. And really, if it wasn't for George Zesis and his vision, the series would have finished. But now we're in a lovely position where we've solved many of the problems about the efficiency of the light source. What we haven't done is to solve the effectiveness of how that light is used. And this is the way that this has now evolved, particularly with help from the IEEE. We're looking at the interaction between lighting, humans, and I'm pleased to say we're now beginning to pay much more attention to the ecosystems, because I think people now are beginning to understand and realise the problems. If we don't look after the complete food chain, then whatever we do, for example, for lighting for bats, isn't actually going to solve anything. And we all depend on these ecosystems because we are at the end of the food chain. And so we must pay particular attention to things like pollinators, making sure that we respect what they need in terms of light and dark. And so that's really where the conference is heading, and it's been extremely successful.
Lighting has already for a long time been very multidisciplinary, ranging from physics, the generation of light, the generation of photons, all the way to perception, to sustainability and so on. But you started off with saying we solved all the problems of the light sources. But people who came from that era are still around.
Oh, yeah. We haven't strictly solved all of the problems. What we have done is to address the limitations of efficiency. So, okay, there's still some work to do in control systems and particularly in the reliability of, for example, LED drivers. So there's still some work to do there. But we're at the point, I think now, where really we should be concentrating, as we've seen in this conference, of how to use the light that we produce effectively and not to do damage.
Now you're here at this conference, I bet you're hearing a lot of new things, you already alluded to that. What would be your vision of what are the key things that we need to do, or unsolved things where still there's a lot of research? And now I see you smile and say, oh.
Okay, one of the things, and we've just had the panel discussion about whether the right to light should be a human right. And one of the things that's emerged recently, and I think it's been emphasised throughout this conference, is we as the lighting industry need to pay much more attention to educating the general public. Because Peter Thorns, for example, reiterated the fact that most people regard light as it's taken for granted. We come into a room like this, we expect not necessarily perfect lighting, but we expect the lighting to be there. We expect it to work when we switch it on and switch it off, and all is fine. And so unless we begin to explain to people more about what they need to have a good balance between light and dark, yet we are failing as an industry in our responsibility to the public.
It's a very interesting observation, because when I opened the conference in my role as the chairman, I invited everyone to the city where Vincent van Gogh painted the potato eaters. And what his lighting company brought is lighting, where basically the working day changes. We also see that in Africa, that if you give people light during different hours, the effectiveness of the economy changes, but also our biological rhythms change. So there are a lot of impacts of just applying more light.
Yep, that's right. And so on the one hand, giving light to those people who do not have light as part of their everyday, or sort of light after darkness, that's the key thing. But we must also respect that there comes a point where we have to say, okay, now it's time for dark. Yeah, so the opportunities that lighting brings is tremendous. And particularly, one of the feelings amongst the committee, the importance of giving countries which don't have mains electricity that ability to work and particularly to be educated after natural darkness. But again, we must not abuse that right to darkness.
That's a great summary. But possibly next year there will not only be a session on light is a human right, but darkness is a human right, and darkness is also an animal right.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we must pay much more attention to the ecosystems around us. Yeah, and one of the things which we've not really received much attention at this particular conference, but I'm sure it will next time around, and that's horticultural lighting, which is a big business and important for many third world countries.
And certainly with a growing population, being effective in horticulture is pretty key.
Oh, it is, because we have a growing population to feed, and that, by its very nature, means more limited resources to do that. So we have to think very carefully about the balance, and this is where our concern about pollinators comes in once again.
Stuart Mucklejohn, thank you very much for summarizing a very broad field of lighting, where you have a long track record, but it's still great to see that there is still progress to be made, that research goes on, and that we are proud to bring that to the City of Light, Eindhoven.
Thank you very much.